these lectures because I can post them up for the people who are not able to be here, or if you want to review it again, you can do that. So, so now we're recording, and now we're ready to go. There we go. Wow. Okay. Sorry, that was confusing. So there is an accompanying handout that goes with this talk, and it'll give you some references, and it'll give you some ideas about some further ways to go, and detail some things that you may or may not capture as we as we move through this. So this is dealing with data, kind of, and you're going to see that I have a broad definition of data. It can be test results. It can be observations. Remember, I think last time I talked about signs, kind of being specific kinds of observations that you can make, or you can be just general observations. I even think about sometimes my own feelings as being data. If I get a certain feeling with a person, I want to incorporate that into data. So, some of you may know data as a self-aware, sapient, sentient, and anatomically fully functional male android who serves as the second officer and chief operations officer aboard the Federation starship USS Enterprise, and later the USS Enterprise E. That is not the data that we're talking about in this course. I think of data like the individual chips of glass and ceramic that are used in making a mosaic. The individual pieces can be bright and colorful and very different from one another. When the individual pieces are assembled artfully, they can produce something that's quite beautiful. Sometimes the pieces are in more than one panel, but each piece has its place. When we are able to see the whole person, we get that kind of piece of art. We get it integrated. We make it make more sense. The pieces can be combined. They can be placed in various ways. Each individual piece has much more meaning when it is in place and in the context of a bunch of other pieces. So the individual mosaic pieces have much more meaning and significance in the context of other mosaic pieces, in the organization of a bunch of pieces. Just like a single note has more meaning and more significance when it's heard in a line of movement, line of music, than when it is just heard singly. Broadly, we can talk about types of data. There is categorical data. Categorical data is either this or that, one or not one, one or zero, yes or no. You can have multiple categories, like with a diagnosis. We have a whole wide range of diagnoses that person can fit into one or more of those categories, but you're either in it or out of it. A continuum data has a range. It can run from 0 to 100, for example, or from 400 to 1600, like the Scholastic Aptitude Score. Other examples include size. You can have something big or something little. It can be measured in inches or feet. Hue, color, all those sorts of things. Excuse me. Profile data is a collection of several different scores. This might be a set of different categories, like somebody might have 3 diagnoses, or it could be a set of scores like on the Working Alliance inventory, where you have 3 domains. You have a profile that's made up of those 3 domains. The MMPI, for example, has 10 scores. You look at the profile as 10. It also can be something like reading and math and writing and essay scores from the SAT. And then finally, unique data is one-of-a-kind information. It is, each of us, for example, has a unique developmental history. Even twins who are born into the same family have different family environments. One of them was born first and one was born second. And many times when we talk to twins, they are well aware of that difference. They're well aware of the distinction of who was born first and who was born second. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to gather data about a person. I talked a little bit about this as at the beginning. So one of the common ways is to do a clinical interview. Clinical interviews can range from highly structured interviews where each question is specified and instructions, you're not to vary from the wording or ask any exploratory questions. You're simply to ask the questions that you're given and rate those. Then we can have a semi-structured interview, which maybe gives you a broad topic and lets you ask, follow up and ask exploratory questions or do inquiry. And these can cover a variety of topics. The interview is encouraged to inquire further. We have some informal assessment techniques. I would call like the mental status exam kind of a interview / informal assessment techniques. And then we have a number of different kinds of instruments. It's like personality tests, ability tests, learning tests, IQ tests that will be good. So all of those create this broad sense of data that I'm talking about. Now we're going to be using rating scales that are pulled from two different places. The DSM-5 has a whole series of rating scales. They have a level 1 cross-cutting inventory that's kind of a general screening instrument, and we're going to be dealing with that in a later lecture. They also have some disorder-specific rating scales so that you could, once you have, say, agoraphobia, you can use a disorder-specific rating scale to assess how severe that agoraphobia is. They have some clinician rating scales where you're given some dimensions to rate on a continuum, maybe from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. The World Health Organization put out a disability assessment scale. There are some of those, there's a rating scale on that. There's also an interview on that. And then the DSM-5 has some personality inventories for the personality disorders, some inventories to tap into those. The other major source that I would encourage you to become familiar with is PROMIS, P-R-O-M-I-S. The link for both of these is in the handout. PROMIS is a whole series of inventories that are designed to assess mental health, physical health, and social health. The General Life Satisfaction Questionnaire is one of the ones is an example of a PROMIS scale. So as we move into this, you'll want to have the General Life Satisfaction Questionnaire, the questionnaire and the scoring instrument, and then the psychometric conversion table. Those are all three on the course page, and then we'll make it a lot easier for you to look at those as we go through that. These are part of the 6-instrument reflection that's due in Unit 4. So this General Life Satisfaction Inventory is rooted in positive psychology or a positive view of functioning. It overlaps with the concept of well-being, and it's a cognitive evaluation. It's an evaluation of how a person is thinking about themselves, how they're, encourages them to reflect on their life and to rate that. If you look at the inventory, you'll notice that there are 10 rows of items, and for each item you mark one box in each row, and then the top 5 items are for version A, and the bottom 5 items are for version B. And I encourage you then to get both of those total scores. And you can see that the numbers are underneath the boxes on the instrument. So just add up your scores for the top 5 and the bottom 5, and that gets you your total score for each one. So the upper 5 are Form A, lower 5 are Form B. And then when you move to the scoring table, you can see that the first column in that scoring table is the sum of your raw scores. And this is for A or for B. So there's two different scoring tables. One is for fixed form B and one is for fixed form A. Make sure that you're using the score for the right one. Find your score in the left column and go all the way over to the right column to get your T-score. Okay? So you should then end up with 2 T-scores. Right? And if you take those 2 T-scores and pull up the psychometric conversion table that I've also, you should have downloaded, you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of columns: standard score, percentile rank, scale score, ETS score, and T-score, Z-score, and then description. So you want to take your T-score and find it in the T-score column. And at that point, you can then go over, and I like to report things in a percentile rank. I think that makes the most sense. But you can also do it in a standard score, which is the IQ score, or you can use the descriptor, the word, and put that into the report. So then you will have 2 scores, T-score converted to a percentile rank. So you have 2 percentile ranks. And these are basically where you fit compared to a pretty broad population of adults. The higher your score, the more satisfied you are with your life, according to this measure. So interpreting that, yikes. Interpreting the data, you can, just like you did in the Working Alliance inventory, you can go through and look at the scores, the items that you scored the highest in and the items that you scored the lowest in. There isn't any domains in this one, but for some data, some tests or some instruments, there will be a domain score. And then you can look at the statistics. You can look at your percentile rank.
Sorry to interrupt, but are you talking about the wellness survey focus?
Nope. General life satisfaction questionnaire. The general life satisfaction questionnaire isn't in the activities. It's in the folder for this talk.
For this unit and week, yeah. I was having trouble too.
Yeah, the wellness, we're going to use that today. We're going to use that in our exercise today. So Kelsey, it looks like you, whoops,
So where is this one? If I'm in Unit 1?
Unit 1, no, Unit 2, dealing with data folder.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Got it?
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
That's on my desk. Okay.
With your clients, you can assemble data in a number of different ways. You can, just like assembling a mosaic, each of these scores that you're doing, and on your six instrument reflection, you will have 6 different pieces of data. Actually, you'll have more than that because you'll have some domain scores from some of these, and in the general life satisfaction, you'll have Form A and Form B score. So you can assemble those, and you want to assemble those so that you find the overlap and the connection, and you get that overall picture. You want to get the holistic picture. And then finally, communicating data. For the end of this course, you're going to write a report that will be assembling some data. I also encourage you to make it a habit of giving verbal feedback so that to any client that you administer those with. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we can, any questions? Is that making sense? Able to walk through the general life satisfaction and come up with your percentile rank scores? Sounds like some of you didn't have it in front of you, but I'm hoping that it'll be clear. You can also go back and review this recording. I will post it as soon as I get it from Zoom. Everybody's good with that. Everybody's done it. Come up with a percentile rank. Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions about the general life satisfaction questionnaire or about data in general?
I have a question about this. So in which situations we would want to use this type of assessment, this specific test for the overall satisfaction?
General life satisfaction?
Yeah.
I would think it might be most appropriate in a research kind of study. For example, let's say that I was researching the impact of meditation. So I give this score at the beginning of an 8-week course on mindfulness meditation. We go through the course, and then we fill out again, and I'm looking for some change in that area. I think also that it might be, it's, if you just use one version, it's 5 items, so it's pretty short. It might be a good inventory to administer if you've got a lot of things to cover, and you want to get an idea of how the person is feeling just about their general life. For example, a good portion of my practice now is with the treatment of insomnia. So I don't have a lot of I want to focus on the insomnia, but I want to get a sense of how they're doing in general. And so this might be a good instrument to get a score just about how things are going outside of that special area that I'm doing. So this is a big global general life satisfaction score that allows you in your report or in your feedback to your client to say, well, it seems like you're pretty satisfied with how your life is, or it seems like you're not very satisfied. Can we start to identify what is missing, or what's leading to that dissatisfaction? You might identify then some other areas that didn't emerge in your interview any other way, especially as I was saying, with my focus on insomnia. I don't do a lot of talk about the rest of their life to begin with. And so this might identify somebody where we need to explore something different.
And is this training that we are getting right now to use this assessment, is this enough training to use it in our practice?
I would think so, yeah. I think you could, you know how to administer it. You would orient the person to the test. If you're handing this out, you would have a heading at the top, general life satisfaction. This is an instrument to assess your general life satisfaction. To get an idea of how you're functioning, how you're kind of a broad measure of how satisfied you are, how happy you are with that, in a sense of kind of general overall wellness. You know how to score it, you know how to interpret it, and you can use either the percentile rank or the verbal interpretation on the psychometric conversion thing might be a better way, to give you some vocabulary for talking about that. So the descriptor, either very superior or average, recognize that it has two sides. It goes down to low, average, and then pretty severe. So yeah, I think that at this point, this is a pretty straightforward, common sense instrument, and by the end of this course, you should be ready to administer that, able to administer that, sufficiently trained to administer that. That's our goal.
Could you talk a little bit again about how to score the general life satisfaction?
Yes. So when you look at the general life satisfaction, let me get it up here so I can see what I'm talking about. When you look at it, there are 10 rows and there are 7 boxes across in front of each row. And essentially you indicate how much you agree or disagree with each item. So the first item is, in most ways, my life is close to perfect. Do you strongly disagree? Do you strongly agree? Do you, just slightly agree? And you do that all the way down for the 10 items. And then you sum the scores. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You sum those scores for the top 5 and the bottom 5. That gets you your total raw score. And then you go to the what's labeled the NIH Toolbox General Life Satisfaction Fixed Form A and Fixed Form B, age 18, version 2. That's what you're using. And you find your raw score. So you make sure that you're on the right form, Form A, Form B. You find your raw score in the left-hand column where it says raw sum score. And you go all the way over to the right side of the table and find your uncorrected T-score. And you use that T-score in the psychometric conversion table to convert it to either a percentile rank, a standard score, or a descriptor.
So does the second form look different? Because mine look the same. Maybe I did it wrong. Or maybe.
Yeah, the T-scores are different for different scores. So you can see on Form A, a raw score of 5 gets you a T-score of 19.9. And on Form B, a raw score of 5 gets you a T-score of 17.6. Make sense?
I think I just have one of the right ones, which is like this one, but I don't see the other one, so I just need to look for it. You don't see the scoring? Yeah, I don't see the scoring, but I see the general life satisfaction with the 10.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have the 2 tables?
Yeah, I don't see that.
Okay, let me look.
that where it says NIH Toolbox General Life Satisfaction Fixed Form A?
That should be it, yeah.
Okay, so then we take that. And can you repeat that now that I see it? Sorry.
Okay, so you take your raw, you make sure that you see Form A and Form B at the top.
Yes.
Okay, so you make the top 5 scores are Form A. You take your sum and you find it in the raw sum score column. You go over on that line all the way over to the left, and that gives you your T-score. And then your T-score is converted to a percentile, standard score, or descriptor using the psychometric conversion table.
Okay, thank you.
This is the most complicated of the tests that you're going to be doing. But this is the promise. All of the tests from the Promise website use this same basic system where you score the items, you get a T-score, and all they give you is a T-score. Well, they give you a theta score and a theta standard deviation, which are more statistical questions about the item but they give you a T-score. So I gave you the conversion table because T-scores may mean a lot to a statistician, but not very much to most of us clinicians. So I like
So from that uncorrected T-score, where's the percentage at?
So you have the psychometric conversion table.
I have the raw score to T-score conversion tables.
No, there's another psychometric conversion table.
Okay, yes.
And you'll see about 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th column over is T-score.
Uh-huh.
You find your T-score in that column. And then you go to all the way to the right is the descriptor, or you can go over to the left and go to the percentile rank or the standard score.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
This is the most complicated of the systems, but this is dealing with statistics. This is using the statistical analysis, looking at your score as if it was in a standard distribution. So everybody's feeling pretty comfortable with the general life satisfaction. Good deal. Okay. So, whoops.
Quick question. If we're just a tiny bit confused, instead of taking up class time for other people, can we email you?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely. Cute kid, Natalie. One of the real pleasures of being on Zoom is we get to see a little bit more of it's a little bit more personal. There's so many downsides to Zoom. I keep looking for the upsides. Okay, so now I want to share this other talk. We'll learn a little bit about life tasks and career choice, and in here we will learn also about the career styles interview, which is another of the instruments that you will use in your 6-item reflection, 6-instrument reflection. There is a handout that goes along with this, so that the handout might be helpful. So I linked this career choice to life tasks. which is is a key element in the individual psychology assessment process. And we're going to learn an interview, a semi-structured interview for identifying, assessing the life tasks, functioning in the life tasks later on in the course, Unit 7. And one of the life tasks is work, and this this instrument that we're going to be talking about, this interview that we're going to be talking about, is focuses just on the work task of life. But I think it's important to keep in mind that in individual psychology and in the way that I think about people, these 3 life tasks are interwoven. You know, they are things that we can't not do. We all have to address these life tasks in some way or another, and they influence one another. So when our social and community life is working, it's more likely that our work life is going to be working in a productive way, and it's more likely that our love and intimacy life is going to be working in some way. So we'll be talking more about these life tasks down the road, but I just want to give you kind of a sense of where these are coming from. And then in individual psychology, we talk about as we move through life, sometimes we come upon experiences that test our preparation for dealing with these life tasks, for dealing with the work task or the love task or the community task. And that we call that, here comes the fire truck, okay. One of the joys of living on a main street is that the fire truck goes by every so often. So in individual psychology, one of the things that we assess is how people are doing on that on the life tasks, and this helps identify where they're having difficulty and trouble in life. Okay. So when we look at the work model overall, you will see in a textbook, there's a big emphasis on what's known as the matching model. Essentially, this is a model that starts with the notion that there are individual differences, and then we match people to their occupation because of the fit between their personality and the occupation. And so these are measured with interest inventories. Those interest inventories or personality inventories are interpreted and matched with occupations in which their interests might be enacted or rewarded. And this generally works pretty well, and some of you may be going into occupational counseling, and we'll do some of this. But the interview that we're going to talk about today approaches this from a different point of view, and the purpose here is to focus on a work self-concept, to look at how you fit, how the personality fits, and kind of focus on a co-constructed narrative with the client, where you give meaning to their job and identify a purpose around that, so that you can open up some other possible domains that might fit more closely with their lifestyle or their style of interviewing or their career style. So you start off with an introductory question. How can I be useful to you in constructing your career? What questions do you have about your career right now? That tends to be let you focus on the goals that the person is having and on any dilemma that they might be currently facing. You know, I imagine for many of you right now, there's something of a dilemma around career. just because you're in school and either moving into a profession or transitioning from one career profession into hopefully another career. Um, in this interview, we're looking at six different domains, and we'll go over those a bit as we go along here. I don't know if I do that on here or not. No, okay. So in terms of role models, you want to identify who does this person admire, who might share this dilemma, and how has it been resolved in the past. One of the exercises that I like for identifying role models is to have the person, appoint a board of advisors. Who do they rely on for information? Who do they want to carry around in their head, and when they have a question, want to ask for that. This interview focuses on favorite magazines or television shows. This was before the huge internet explosion, and so we might now talk also about blogs or where you tend to hang out on the internet. And the question here is, what is it that you like about it? What's encouraging about this? What's enlarging about this? Where do you identify with? Similar inquiry around books and movies. Again, what's the problem or the key focus of those books or movies? Do you see what's the relevance that you see for this favorite book or this favorite movie for the dilemma that you're in right now or for the situation that you're in right now? And then move to leisures and hobbies. Again, kind of looking at getting a sense of what their interests are, what self-expression, what roles they're playing in life. Favorite sayings, this is a headline for your life or a short saying. One of the exercises that I remember doing at one point is to draw a shield or a coat of arms for myself, incorporating the major lines of movement in my life. And then finally, which school subjects did you like the most and which did you like the least? What were your preferred tasks? What were your preferred kind of work environment? Where did you seem to do the best in terms of school and study? So as you move through this interview is in an article that you can download, and my guess is that you'll kind of use this as a journal. You will look at it yourself, and for yourself you can make up a character or not. But in the 6-instrument reflection, I encourage you to at least try this for yourself and see what it feels like as if you were being interviewed, as if somebody were asking you those questions and then following up on them. This is a semi-structured interview. The interviewer is encouraged to ask relevant questions, follow-up questions, and follow up on any things that's interesting or seems revealing there. And then the final item in the interview is to collect an early recollection. And I'm going to give you a little bit different instructions than what they give there. You can use the one that's in the interview, that's in the article, or you can do this. This is based on the notion that you have identified a dilemma in your career. That dilemma might be studenting, it might be transferring from one profession to another. It might be emerging into a profession, but kind of get a sense of, if you can focus on a dilemma, if you can identify a dilemma, really focus on it. Let yourself reproduce, get in your mind the thoughts that you have, feelings that you have, any body sensations that you might have, and try to intensify those as much as possible. Spend a minute or two and get yourself as into that feeling and body sensation and thinking as you can, and then simply relax and allow a childhood memory to come up. Any memory at all, just the first one that emerges into your mind. Should be a specific incident. Write it down and think about what is the snapshot of that memory. Usually a memory is a story, but what's the snapshot? What's the most vivid point of that memory? And then interpreting the early recollection, there are several different ways. You can look for the action words in the early recollection. And so action words are verbs, adverbs, things where there is movement, and kind of look at each one of those. You can do a phrase by phrase analysis. You can look at what is chosen, what is selected, assume that the memory is chosen, what's the logic that might have led to that choosing. And finally, think of a headline or a snapshot, a summary statement for that memory. So I don't expect you to do that now. I expect you, you can download that article. So any questions about this interview or about this part of the assignment at this point? This will be more like a journal, a guided journal.
So the article is career style interview.
Yes.
Okay, and so we download that, print that, and then that's the format we use to interview whoever it is we're interviewing?
Yeah, the authors discuss the interview some, and then at the end, I don't know if it's at the end of the article or in an appendix, there's all of the questions that I just went through are there. They suggest a little bit different style of interpreting the early record, eliciting the early recollection and interpreting it, but you can do either one. Other questions? So now you have kind of a self-report measure, and in the Working Alliance inventory that's focused on a relationship. You have a questionnaire that is focused on general life satisfaction, and so it's just a score. Don't see them in the article. I'll have to look.
I mean, I see things like favorite television shows, hobbies. Is that what you're talking about? Or?
Yes. Okay. So here's the opening question, then a discussion of each of the areas. Here's an example, some role models, conclusion. So the questions, the topics are kind of embedded in these discussions here.
So would it be acceptable to like use those as headings and then write a summary of what the client said?
Yes, that would be how you would do it. And again, this is a semi-structured interview, and so it is, you are free to inquire, follow up, and in the article, it talks about how to interpret that data, and you know, the goal here is to help the person identify their working style or their career style, the way that they move through life with regard to the task of working or career. So for some assessments, this would not be relevant. For other assessments, it is the focus. And there is a whole vocational guidance, career guidance field that is open in mental health, where much of what is done is this kind of assessment and then guidance around career choice or trainings choice. Other questions about the career choice, career styles? No, I'm going to stop the recording then.